Hello, hello. This is Bananas and it's party time. Excellent. My today's guest for this unique episode of Bananas is CJ, the amazing vocalist for Die Art is Murder.
Party time, excellent!
This person, ladies and gentlemen, do not need a special introduction. My good friend CJ, all the way from Sydney, Australia, correct?
Yep, Sydney. Well, technically Campbelltown was like a little suburb, like 40 kilometers southwest of Sydney. But Sydney is that's home. I'm here in Sydney.
Nice, nice. We have 17 hours of difference. I never talked with anybody so far. How is it over there in the future?
Yeah. Well, technically, yeah, we're the second country in the world to be like in the date line. It's like New Zealand and then us and then like Southeastern Asia and Hawaii and then forward. So it is weird when we tell people, especially in America, that we're a day ahead of them. Like when we fly to America, we usually fly out of Sydney at about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. So if we leave on Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning from Sydney, we land in LA at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday. And it's like, it makes no sense.
It's true.
Like we've flown for 20 minutes and we're from Sydney to LA, but it's the time difference and the 14 and a half hours it takes to get to LA.
Sometimes you lose a day and sometimes you acquire a day. I feel very, very similar, but obviously I don't have such a big difference with the country I was born in, the country where my band is, where I fly all the time. It's in Eastern Europe. But yeah, it's definitely, I know what you're talking about. I know the feeling, at least similar.
Yeah. The funniest thing that happened for us was about 8 years ago, we did our second tour in America, our first headline tour, and we flew out of LA. I think it was about 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And then when we landed in Sydney, it was the day after Christmas.
Oh.
So we literally missed Christmas. We would have had Christmas on the plane, passed out drunk for about 3 hours, but like the Christmas Day, 25th of December, 8 years ago, did not exist for us.
No, did not exist for sure. I got close one time. Actually, last year, our last day on tour was getting very, very close to Christmas, and then I had to drive all the way to Central Europe with the nightliner, with the touring bus, and then fly from there here to Vegas, and I arrived to New Year's Eve like 1 hour before midnight.
Wow,
so it was
that's
very
crazy.
close. Yeah, very close. Anyways, I love starting this. I've been doing already a few before I got to you, or we finally found time. I really, really love asking this one question. This specific part of my YouTube channel, I decided to call it Party Time Excellent. So what is that one thing that means the party's on for you specifically?
Well, it's funny because you probably couldn't have picked like a worse time. I spent most of my life partying, and the last 2 years I haven't. Like, I have a beer now. This is the first beer I've had in about 4 months, and then my best friend is over.
I only have water, but that's okay.
I don't really drink. I've never been a big drinker. My best friend and some of my people from my shop are over, so they've kind of peer pressured me into having a beer. But I just don't feel the need. Like, I'm 36 now, and I spent about 20 years of my life like doing literally hundreds of kilos of cocaine and ecstasy, MDMA, acid every day. And a lot of people that know me in the music world will know me for that. And I guess when we knew we were going to have a baby. Well, before that, when I left the band a few years ago, I kind of really slowed down on the drug use and the partying. And then when we found out we're having a baby, I kind of pretty much stopped it all together. And I had this conversation only this afternoon at the shop, where a few of my friends are like, look, we're thinking of going away, having like an old weekend, partying, letting like all the stress out, and we'll just like get on the drugs and just like binge it for a weekend and like get back to normal. I said, I'm past that. Like I'm totally not down with that kind of thing anymore. So I guess like back in the day, I didn't need an excuse to party, especially on tour. Every night's a party. You've got friends in every city, every country in the world, and they all want to party because it's a special night for them, but it's just another night for us. But I couldn't think of anything worse these days than partying, honestly. Like,
No, but you know what I mean, is, when you're like, okay, now I can relax. I feel like that's also some sort of party as well. Like for somebody, it could be just a weekend, whatever,
Sure.
I appreciate you sharing all that you just said, because it's something that nobody actually thinks about. Nobody thinks about what happens behind the curtains, and all the fans that see us every day, they really want to party,
Yeah.
And if you don't show up and after party, they're like, what's wrong? What happened with her, or what happened with him? They don't understand that this is work for us.
That's right.
It's the job of our dream. It's our dream job or whatever, but it's still a job, and you can afford to stay longer after the show sometimes, but you're not a robot. You're not made of steel, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you can't really do that much. Obviously I've seen people that just couldn't do it. They had to stop sooner or later for a reason or another. But still, I feel like I'm not a big drinker, you see. I don't drink much. I like to have a glass of wine here and there, or a cocktail or something. But I do like, party for me is like seeing friends, or like having, I don't know, the weekend, or like doing something I love. That's like party for me,
Yeah.
at the moment.
I think like in that context, like I've never really liked being alone my whole life, and then in the last like 2 years, like I've had a lot of really big things happen in my life, and the thing I missed, like I grew up fishing and surfing my whole life, and then I went like militant vegetarian vegan a long time ago for like 7 years, and then I went back to eating meat. And the last 2 years, I've stopped eating meat, and I eat seafood. I still eat seafood, so I'm pescatarian. But with like touring with like my tattoo studio with our baby, I haven't had time for me. It's, get on a plane, travel the world, fucking tour, be that guy that everybody thinks is like powerful and confident and charismatic, and do that, and then come home and run my business and help my wife with my son and do all of these things. So I guess I've just in the last 3 weeks, I've taken back up fishing. And it's a huge part of like my whole life. When I was a kid, I grew up by the sea, and I'd fish to feed my family, and I was very respectful about the environment and the oceans. And lately I find that is like my zen moment. Especially, I only fish with one or two other people, but I find when I fish by myself, it's the only, and I was just explaining this to my best friend only hours ago, where fishing is the only place I can go, and I just like evaporate, and like my mind is purely on that moment, how the water is moving, where the moon is sitting or where the sun is sitting, where the wind is coming from, what the fish are doing in the water, what the birds are doing, what the rod's like, what the tension of the line is, what kind of bait am I using, should I be fishing in a different location. I'm just concentrating on that one moment, and then like my brain operates very differently to a lot of people, where it's 100 miles an hour about a million different things, and so many paths cross over, like the anxiety part of me, the depression side of me, the confident part of me, the worrying side of me, the should I have taken this time out, or should I be at home helping my wife with my son, should I be, concentrating on how I'm going to reopen my business after this COVID bullshit, and it's like my brain is just firing too much at one time. But fishing is where it's the only time where I'm thinking then and now. It's like being on stage. I could be having like a nervous breakdown before we play, and I'm like crying, and like I'm so weak, and I just want to be home with my family. And then when my tour manager says you've got to go to stage, then I just walk there, and then it just switches off. So
Yeah.
I feel that fishing, like I said, I've just recently gotten back into. It's something where if I'm leaving to go fishing at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep that night because I'm excited to have that me time. So, I guess I've replaced, trying to drown my thoughts and my feelings and partying and drugs for so long. And after that, I've been missing something to replace that's more healthy. And I think for me, it's because of the life that I live, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me, is we lack that alone time. And it's not even alone time, it's the quality of it. And I feel that a lot of people need to find that one thing that they can be alone and be at peace with. Like my wife is a tattoo artist, and she paints amazing paintings. So for her, that's painting. For me, it can't be music because I'm at the forefront. You can say the same thing being a singer. You are representing the 4 people or whatever behind you, and all eyes in the crowd are on you. You are the most important thing. So although there's a big part of that you're doing that for your self-satisfaction and what you've tried to do your whole life to achieve, you're still doing that for other people as well, where
Absolutely.
I needed to do something that's just for me. And I guess when it all pays off, if I have a successful fishing trip, I bring home food to feed my family as well. So, but for me, I think it's been very important, especially during this COVID situation that we're going through, is I need my own time where I'm not a singer, I'm not a business owner, I'm not a boss, I'm not a manager, I'm not a husband, I'm not a father. I'm just a person sitting on a rock or sitting on the beach, living life and just being in nature and switching off the brain. So I think I'm really happy that I've got back into fishing, because I was really struggling with this whole COVID stuff where I couldn't do anything. We were in America for 4 days of our American tour. We played one show in Philadelphia and then got sent home. We lost so much money, like $100,000 lost instantly. And I came home and I thought, well, we've lost all this money. At least I've got my shop. I can still make money to support my family and pay our bills and my son and everything else. And then a week after I got home, we got shut down by the government. So, for 2.5 months, I've been sitting at home living like Groundhog Day, repetitively, waking up at the same time. I have like my vitamins in the morning. I have a cigarette, I have a coffee. I change my son, I bath my son, I feed my son, I play with him, I put him down for a nap. My wife wakes up, I palm him off to my wife or my mother-in-law. I walk around the house going, what the fuck am I going to do? But my life's over. And like, it's a bit like over dramatic, I guess. But it's like, this whole thing has affected so many people, and myself included. Like, I've just felt so worthless, and but like
Empty.
My life, like yours, is just 100 miles an hour in every aspect of it. I don't have holidays. I don't have a break. If people go, oh, at least you got a break off tour. And I'm like, yeah, I've got 5 weeks off before the next tour. I go straight home. When I land, if I land in the morning, I go home, I shower, I drop my clothes off, I go straight to my shop. I don't take a day off. And I don't like having time to myself because it gives me too much time to think, and I overthink
Yeah.
things. Then I get paranoid, then I get depressed, and then I have waves of anxiety and panic attacks about things that may never ever happen. So
Yeah.
I am blessed that my life is so fast paced because it's it keeps me on track because people depend on me, people rely on me. I have to keep going. I can't have time to stop and just
Yeah.
think and be alone in my thoughts. So I need my life to go back to normality
Yeah,
as
I
fast as
understand.
possible.
And I didn't want to interrupt you even once because everything you say, I feel very, very close to almost everything you say. You see also for the past 4 years, I changed my lifestyle very much. I also started to be very aware of the environment, and I am vegan since 4 years now as well, and it's very, very I feel like I'm very, very awake, and similar to you, I find it very helpful when I'm in the nature to
Yeah.
really like just have me time. And I prefer going hiking or in the nature, whatever I do, alone more than just with a bunch of friends, I feel like I push my limits when I go for hours. I really like to do something physical. I feel more fulfilled when I feel my body working a little bit, because we never have time for that. That is what it is, the truth. And I've been struggling a lot in my personal life as well for the past year and a half, going through a roller coaster relationship while being on tour is not easy, and I'm sure a lot of musicians can relate to that.
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah, so then this pandemic happened, and just like you, for me the first thing was, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I need stuff to do all the time, and I feel way happier and I have peace of mind when I actually am productive. So I started doing things that I never tried before, and all that. But I'm really, really happy that you actually brought that up, because I feel like, again, not many people understand what musicians go through. Not many people understand how difficult it is. And not many people understand how many things you actually do. This is incredible. CJ, really, like having all these businesses, and I know you help a lot your family, your father, with the furniture and those amazing tables that you do. I see all those. It's a piece of art, with a tattoo shop and everything. Being a father, being a full-time musician and having a child is such a big responsibility. I think your baby though is super, super happy at the moment to have so much time with you.
Oh, yes, he's at that great age too. So it's definitely a handful, but like our house is 8 people, so we have like a shitload of people that help us, like my wife's family, with him, like when he gets a little
Nice.
bit too much. But yeah, it's. I find it's going to be hard. I was also mentioning this today to my best mate. It's going to be hard to go back to normal life, even though that I crave normal life so much. Like even being in the shop for a few hours today, cleaning and prepping for reopening. Like I don't know how I'm going to feel that transition, those first 2 or 3 weeks going back, because I'm so used to being here, being with him. Even though I want this life to go back to what it was before this, I think there'll be like a few weeks, if not months, where it's that like getting used to the change between this lockdown to going back to normal life. And I worry about that too, but I like I said, the quicker I can go back to being fast paced, like I need stress. I need not like like relationship stress or
Not like problems, but like
yeah,
yeah.
like healthy stresses, like problem solving, and you have a bad customer at work, or a situation that I need to resolve, or I've got like 3 meetings and the delivery for sterilization pads hasn't arrived in a week. Like these sort of things, like I need to fire. I need to like be on top of everything. I need to be there for my friends, my family, my staff. emotionally supportive, giving them directive. I need to run a successful business for me, my family, my staff, my friends, my everyone. So I need that sort of fast paced environment to keep me going, because I feel that I make the best decisions at the heat of the moment. I'm the best person I can be when I'm 100 miles an hour, and then you give me something else on top of that. Then I'm like, okay, cool, give it here, give me 2 days, I'll have it done, blah blah blah. You give me something to do now, and I just go, oh yeah, I'll probably do it tomorrow. Even though
Yeah.
I've got time,
Yeah.
I'll just say, oh, I'm gonna look after my son, then I'm gonna go for like a 10K walk, and then I'm gonna go and get groceries, and then I'm gonna watch Netflix or Foxtel for a little while, and
Yeah.
then I'll have a cigarette, then I'll make like vegan spag bowl or something, and then like I can't function having that much free time. I need to have no free time, and
Yeah.
then when
See,
I've
that's a rare quality, though, CJ. It's a very rare quality. People I know, at least people that I got to meet in my life, they are usually super stressed. They need their time to do things, and if something goes wrong, they break into pieces. I am like, no, wait. You solve your problem, and then if you want, you can still break into pieces. But
yeah, yeah.
first. But first, put your shit together.
Honestly, if I haven't broke into 1,000 pieces already with like, the shit that I've been through in my life, I'm very open about talking, and there's still a lot that I will never talk to the general public about. But if I can go through what I've been through, which in some cases, some people have gone through far worse things than I have, 100%. But like the shit that if I can keep myself together through the few things that have happened in the last few years, then like I can go through anything. Like it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like cancer or someone close to me dies or whatever. Those are small things in comparison to some things that I and other people have gone through. So I guess it's like the hardest thing for me to deal with is having so much free time. Like that in the 36 years that I've been alive for, that has been the biggest problem in my life, that's been forced upon me, or the decisions that I've made, other than some bad friends that I've kept over the years, and my drug abuse. Other than that, like it's nothing that happens in the future. It's not something that I'm not going to be able to overcome. I feel I've made terrible decisions in my life, and some things I've had some really bad luck and really bad things happen in my family and my friends that I've overcome. So I think it's kind of like a blessing that I think, it's that bullshit catchphrase people say, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's the only way that I can somewhat sum it up in a way where people can kind of understand. And I feel that quote, as overused as it may be, I feel that really connects with me on a level that's very personal to me, and I feel that a lot of people that's probably watching this interview would probably feel the same if they truly thought about it in like a deep way.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I feel the same. For me, music helps a lot. I feel like if it wasn't for me, I discovered, this feeling of relief and this feeling of feeling better, like when you breathe out through music. With Infected Rain, I never been in a different band before, so that we are talking about 2008, right? Everything that ever happened before was always bottled up, or always kept in, and it would come out in a weird way. And I had a really tricky childhood and situations in life as well that made me who I am right now, and I'm very proud of who I am, despite the fact whatever I had to go through. And I feel like if people started to look at it that way, just like you said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, we could be living in a better world for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like I'm very, as much as I hate to use the phrase blessed, it is something that is the only word that I can find at the moment that sums that sort of thing up. Come from a really good family, had a great childhood, everything was great, and all of the bad things that, not all of them, but a lot of the bad things that happened to me in my life were because of the decisions that I made, and the things that I was doing. So, you know, a lot of the things that came my way was my own doing. So, you know, there's a lot of people out there, especially a lot of kids that come from really bad childhoods, very abusive, both mentally, sexually, physically, emotionally, like, and there's a lot of people out there that will never live a somewhat normal, caring, loving, respectful life. And yet there are people out there that I know that have come from these family situations and have turned out to be amazing people, you know, and they've literally been born into hell and lived through hell and then escaped it and come out the other side like angels. And it's great. It's just funny, like this world that we live in and the people in it. You know, I always look pretty negatively on the whole world, constantly. But on rare occasions, I do see like the beauty side of it, and you know, like it doesn't matter what you come from. It's where you're going and the journey to get there. You know, I know plenty of people that have had amazing, perfect, loving, healthy upbringings and have just turned into evil monsters, and you know, the polar opposite of that as well. So it's yeah, I'm kind of rambling and I'm getting off topic, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's totally fine. I love hearing you speak, and I remember when we met in I believe it was
Hungary.
2017 in Hungary.
Yeah.
When we played, I remember having a lot of fun talking to you, talking to Lee. We had a blast. And don't worry about getting off topic. This is what it is. This is a hangout. This is not an interrogation or an interview.
No.
So,
I haven't really had long conversations for a long time.
I know, I bet. Same here, especially with musicians. You know, other than my own band musicians, I don't really speak to many musicians because, you know, we are all so far away from one another. So that's why I decided to get in contact with everybody like that. I was curious, by the way, how is everything going with music with you guys?
To be honest, I haven't spoke to anyone in the band for 2.5 months. I spoke to our bass player Kevy, just like chatting on Instagram about like how we're keeping, and then our drummer Jesse is in America. He's an American dude, and so we were messaging each other. He helps me buy Supreme in America, and he was telling me about coffee, and Jesse's like, oh, I love all the dudes in the band. They're all great. And then Marcia I speak to about, you know, what the future lies, like when's touring going to happen, like, you know, what's happening with America, and all sorts of stuff like that. But I think everyone's good.
Okay.
But I guess because we tour so much, when we're away from each other, we kind of, I don't think it's intentionally that we don't, you know, we don't associate with each other because we live in different states or different countries. So the closest that we live is Andy. When Andy's not living in America, he lives in Melbourne, and that's a 9-hour drive from Sydney.
Okay.
That's the
Still far.
Yeah, like he's the closest person to me, and I think him and his fiance just moved to Canberra, which is, it's only 2 hours away. But you know, we all have our own lives. We're all pretty grounded people, and we're all quite busy outside of music as well. So we have our own families and our own friends and our own businesses and all jobs to do as well. So I guess if we didn't tour as much as we did, we'd probably keep in contact more. But that distance that we have so far away from each other, it kind of prevents you from kind of seeing each other and being in contact. I'm not one that likes to be on the phone or anything.
Yeah. No,
you know,
I understand. I was more curious if you guys were thinking or started at all thinking about the newer album, because you see, my band and your band, we pretty much gave to the world a new album at the same time, pretty much. By the way, amazing album. Of course, I'm a huge fan. And then later I'll tell you how I found out about your band.
Well,
That was a fun.
I I think the way that we roll with new music is we kind of leave it to the last minute. I think I think we do it a lot differently than other bands. Maybe there's a lot of bands that do it the same, but we by the time we've recorded a record, none of us really want to hear it. Like it's like extremely stressful, and we put ourselves through hell. We sleep on old couches or the floor in the studio in New Jersey. We're up all night. We're up all day. We're away from our families. It's very stressful. You get writer's block many times, every record. I stress out that I can't come up with anything other than subject matter and stories about what I'm trying to say. And then then our guitarist and our producer have to dilute what I'm saying and turn it into lyrics, and I do it with them. And by the time we're finished recording, we're on the plane to go on tour or to come back home. And it's just like, that's done. I don't ever want to record again. And then you fast forward a year and a half after the release of that record, and then we're like, well, fuck, we should write another record. And then our manager books in the studio time, because we have to book in at least a year in advance, and says, all right, we've got to come up with some stuff in the next 3 months. That's when we're booked in. I'm like, okay. And then we go in with little to nothing at all. And then I think it's very similar to my life. Like, we work better under pressure, like we get to the studio and goes, okay, we've got 4 weeks to turn absolutely nothing into something that's going to keep our careers and our fans happy, and keep pushing forward. So I think that's...
well, it's working, whatever you guys are doing.
For
it's
now,
working great.
it's always, at the end of every record we've done, it's... once we get the final master back and we listen to it, I'm like, fuck, this is really good. It turned out great. And I was so worried about every record. I guess I hold a very high caliber of musicianship on my boys, and a huge responsibility to be able to front that music to the best of my ability every record. And I always want to outdo my previous work. So I'm my own worst critic in that regard. But I feel that writing and recording a record is one of the most stressful things for me to go through. It's like there's so much weight, and I always think coming into a record, I'm like, I'm gonna ruin this. This is gonna be fucked. This is the record that people say that this is when the band started getting bad. And at the beginning when we release a record, I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna do a better record. What are we supposed to sing about on the next record? How are we gonna make the next one better? Are we gonna do something different? Are we gonna change up styles? What content are we gonna sing about? I'm like, I don't think I can do better than this. Like, what's the point?
I feel you very much on
like
this.
I don't ever want to do something that's not better than what I've already done. Like,
I agree with you 100%. That's one of the main reasons why the majority of the times when I get invited on any projects or songs, I'm like, no, I don't have enough inspiration to do something. Like, if I do it, it has to be like a full 100% something amazing, Yeah. So I know I can rely and create with my band, and every time you do a new record, it's just like you said, you're like, how are we going to be at least at the same level with the album before? At least.
Yeah, that's right. It's difficult. Like, I guess I stress myself out. It's, everyone in my band and my closest friends and my family will say the same thing. Like, he just put too much pressure on himself. And it's like that with everything. Like, just the most mundane, everyday situation, I'll make, like, the biggest deal over it, getting the shopping or something. And I've only really noticed it during this COVID stuff because I've got so much time. Like, if it's back to normal life, and my wife or my father-in-law calls me, says, oh, can you get this and this on your way home from work? I'm like, okay, cool, got it. Put it in my reminders on my phone, go back to work, do things, emails, interviews on the phone, helping customers, clean the shop. All right, tonight I've got to go past the supermarket on the way home, go to the supermarket, these sort of things, go home. It's like, I put everything in a line and everything just works and functions and flows. But now having all of this time, I can take my time doing things, and it's the fucking worst thing for me. I can't have that. I need everything just to go, and it's. I know there's people out there that are probably listening to this thinking that I'm crazy, and they're fucking right. I am crazy. I'm fucking.
But you know what? Craziness makes you who you are, and craziness makes you so unique. So they can say whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
they want.
I like they say I don't really care, but it's funny. Like, I met a guy fishing the other day, and I don't even know why. I just vented. I'm a very open person about 98% of my life, and the guy was like, man, are you like, you've got to be joking about all of these things. I went, no, Google me. Just put my name in Google and it'll all come up. And he's like, what are you doing fishing here, mate? You should be in in this multi-million-dollar boat. And I'm like, mate, it's not what you think it is. That's not how it is. So it's just funny, man. Like, just like how people perceive you as well when they find out you're in like somewhat of a well-known band, and then they just automatically have this ideal of what they think you are, and they think that you're rich, and they think, you drive a Lamborghini and you fly first class everywhere, and you have women throw themselves at your feet. And I'm like, mate, my wife doesn't even look at me anymore. Like, it's not how it is, mate. The music just world. If you want to make millions of dollars, you need to be bloody Jay-Z or Beyonce, or Drake, really.
That's in the best case scenario, or somebody that doesn't really has zero talent and is nobody and becomes famous just because, and which is the saddest part of our life, of our society nowadays. But it is what it is, You know what? I have this question that, since I started talking to you about this interview, I was like, I'm going to ask him. And okay, so I don't know any band in the world that has this. Only you guys have it, specifically you. So CJ, how does it work with having been replaced so many times? So I know you left the band once, but you had to leave the tour a few times, or you had to be replaced for certain gigs and certain tours. And I know I met some of the vocalists that sang instead of you as well. I know some of them. How is the reaction of the fan, the reaction of the band? How are you coping with all this? Because, like very often we see a guitar player getting replaced, or the drummer temporarily, for a tour or two or something. Hell, it happened even to us a few times because we had paperwork issues or whatever. But with the vocalist, it's a little bit different.
Sure.
And I feel like, and every time you come back, and there's nobody like you, let's be honest, especially in that genre. So how is it? Tell us more about it.
I guess it's like, it was a mixture of things because, Nick is like a really good friend of ours, and I fucking love Nick, and Nick's such a great dude and a great vocalist.
Absolutely.
So when Nick had to fill in for me on when I had left, I was really happy. And at the same time, I was a little bit worried because around that time, I was kind of thinking that I should go back. But then I thought, nah, it's just a phase that I'm thinking of going back. And then when I had to leave a tour for the birth of my son, Nick did the last 2 weeks of the American tour when we were supporting Architects. So I was really happy because it was Nick, and I know the band love Nick. They're all super tight with Nick.
Nick is a sweetheart.
He is. He's so great. Nick's great. So I'm happy for Nick to replace me any day of the year when and if that needs to happen for certain things. And then I guess it was like when I left the band, they had like 3 or 4 different vocalists play, and you know, at the start of it, I was kind of like, yeah, they can have whoever they want. I don't give a fuck. Fuck all them. Like, fuck everything. I just don't care. And then I'd see stuff on Instagram, and then I was kind of like, I'd get a little bit bitter, where it's like, I built this empire, and then this cunt thinks that he can just like come on in and just, oh yeah, like I'm the best man now, and I'm like, fuck you, this cunt doesn't know anything, he ain't me. So, but it was, that bitterness would only last just a fragment of time. It wasn't like a lengthy or a long drawn out process at all. It was just little bits and pieces. I guess it was like how I felt on the day, you know, like if I'm a very emotional person, so one day I'll be like super stoked on life, the next day I'll be very upset or very angry or violent, or it all depends on the day. But then I saw a few videos of vocalists, and I would say that there is no one on this face of the earth that can do what I do, in my band at least. And I owe that to my guitarist Andrew Marsh and our producer Will Putney, because especially Will, during the early days of recording Hate and Holy War, he really pushed me to get the best out of me, to the point where there's certain lines and phrases in some of our songs that's near impossible to sing in a breath. And like, I smoke, but my breathing techniques is second to no one. I don't know anyone that can breathe like I do when I play. And then the circular breathing exercises that I learnt, so I can scream and breathe at the same time. So when I saw videos, even with Nick and other people singing these phrases, I saw how much they were struggling, and that made me feel happy that I was able to do things that even great vocalists can't do. And I guess it's because I had done it 1,000 times that I was used to it.
Absolutely.
And my whole life, up until probably the last 4 years, I've really taken vocals on a bit more of a relaxed approach. But for about 25 years to 20 years, I took vocals so seriously that I was training every day. I was doing underwater breathing exercises. I was doing like compression breathing exercises. I was doing a million different things to enhance my voice and make it as strong as I could be. And I guess it's, I found satisfaction in watching people struggle trying to do what I did. And that made me know that I was special.
Absolutely. I know the feeling. I know what you're talking about, because I feel like that you don't even have to be the greatest vocalist in the world. But if you have that one unique thing that only you can do,
That's right.
that's it.
Yeah.
The stage is yours. Because, and don't get me wrong, I think you are absolutely amazing vocalist for metal, especially in the genre that you're doing, and there's nobody that could replace you. But I listen to a lot of music, not only metal. I listen to tons of different genres of music, just love music. But I find myself loving the most the vocals that are unique.
Yeah.
Not so much the vocals that are like, a huge range or whatever. Something that, what the fuck, how did he do that? What sound is that? Or what did she do? How did she do that, So, and that would be the best compliment I could ever have from a fan or another, fellow musician that will say, amazing, whatever you do is amazing or is very unique. Because it's it's the highest level when people with their eyes closed can tell vocalists apart, and they can be like, that's definitely CJ from Die Artist Murder. I don't even have to look and read the name of the band, and that's the best for sure. What about the fans? How did the fans take all those replacements that were going on?
I think it was like a bittersweet thing as well. I know that there was, in some cases, in some markets, it was evident that the shows were a little smaller, but I was almost out for 2 years before I came back, and I was getting messages every day, like for that whole time, and then videos, and It was sad because I still wanted the band to go forward and to be successful without me. But like I said, I guess it depended on what the day was and how I was feeling. Some days I was sad that, I saw comments on their page and all this, and they were putting shit on other vocalists, and they just kept saying, get CJ back, do this, do everything you can to get him back, and then bad things. And then you see a lot of good comments saying, you guys are still there, it's great, we're stoked that you keep going. And depending on how I was feeling, I'd be sad that I wasn't there to keep, the band going in the right track and their fans happy. And then I would be slightly evil some days, going, yeah, fuck you, I'm glad that, everyone misses me. I'm glad that, they think everyone else that's trying to replace me is shit, like sucked in, like I don't care, like fuck everyone.
Yeah.
If I can't be happy and have everything that I want, no one can be happy. No one can have anything that they want. So I guess that's the bipolar in me as well, where it does depend on how I'm feeling, because one day I can be something and then the next day I can be totally different. And a lot of my family and my friends and the band especially has had to live with this. And I know, especially in my drug-fueled years, which there was nearly 20 of them, that I was a very, what's the right word to use? I was a very volatile person, because it depended on how many days I was up on cocaine for, was going to be how I would be around people. He's only on the second day of being awake, so he should be okay today. He's been awake for 4 days or 5 days. I think he's going to be bad today, or he's run out of cocaine and he's not going to find any today, so he's going to be violent, so I'm definitely far better than what I was, a few years ago, because I have everything under wraps and manageable, and I'm pretty much 100% sober, other than a beer every 3 or 4 months. Yeah, one beer. So, again, I've lost my train of thought because I get off topic and I just ramble and I don't know what I'm answering. I just keep going.
Well, that's totally fine, but I want to add here that I think that obviously we're not talking about the times where you just like you said, you were not yourself and you were using drugs, and that your mood dependent on that, right? But I feel like it's better when you say that it all depends on your mood. It's better to be yourself no matter what, to be honest, even if honesty sometimes sucks to hear.
Yeah.
So it's okay. We are human beings, and it's okay to be mad or to be like, fuck yeah, nobody is as good as I am. That's what you guys get, or whatever. I feel like that's a human reaction, and it's okay to have it. And lying about and saying that no, I was never, touched by any of that would be maybe not being sincere with yourself in the first place. And that's one of the qualities that I hate the most, and I hate when people lie, especially to themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's already so much lie around. So that could be a good quality that you have, even though, as you said, there might be a bipolar thing. Yeah, well, as I said, I never saw another band. Maybe there is. I just don't know about it with this experience with the vocalist. But you know what? I'm glad you're back in the band. And I remember the big entrance. You guys kept it so secret. You were wearing black and your face was dark in the beginning in the photo shoots. I remember being like, something's fishy here. Yeah, so before I move on to the end of this interview, so-called interview, I wanted to tell you this little story I have about Die Artist murder. So I will keep it short. We used to have a guitar player in the band in the first year of our existence. We just did 2 shows with him, I believe. He moved to America after a while, and he established here so long ago. I'm talking like 2009 or something like that. And 2013 was when I visited America for the first time. I have some friends here, and I obviously visited him as well.
Yeah.
And he already had a lot of tattoos, a bunch of tattoos. And he has two portraits of two members of Die Artist Murder on him. And I did not know about your band yet.
I know who this dude is.
Yeah, you do. His name is Victor.
He's got Lee on his hand.
He got Lee on his hand,
yeah.
and he's got your face on his leg somewhere. So he's like, dude. He always calls me dude because we are like, brothers. He's like, you have to listen to them. You have to listen to them. They are amazing. And I remember not listening to you guys right away when he told me, but then I did. And then, we played shows together and had an amazing time. But I feel like how the world brings people to each other's life is just so amazing. It's really, really cool.
It is. It's funny you mentioned that because as you're telling me that story, I remember is he Russian?
Well, he's from Moldova, and Moldova used to be part of USSR.
Yeah.
This is where I am from.
Yeah.
I was born there, although my parents are not really Moldavian. But yeah, the band, everybody in the band is from there. Yes.
Because I remember meeting him at a show in Los Angeles, and I think the guy who tattooed him is Russian.
Yes, correct.
That's where I'm getting the Russian. Well, I've got a really good memory, which is weird because I met this dude for like 5 minutes.
Yes,
but I think he has like Lee on his. I think it's his out front. I think it's his right arm. He has Lee on his right hand, and then he has. I think it's Mitch Looker from Suicide Silence on his forearm, and I think I'm up on the top of his arm.
No, you're on his leg.
It's on his leg. On his leg. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was on the arm.
Your portrait is on his leg.
But I know that artist that he got tattooed by, and it's not McCallus or whatever it is, but I think that guy tattoos in New York, but the guy's Russian. And I remember talking to him about it. We were at the front of the venue, and I spoke to him there. And so when you said that two members of the IATA, I went, it has to be that skinny dude that I met.
Yes, correct. Yeah. He looks like Jesus and long
super
hair.
Skinny. Yeah.
Yeah, super skinny. Yeah. He still lives here in America. He used to live in New York for a while, but he moved to LA. But we know each other from, oh my God, since I was like maybe 15 or something.
Yeah.
We know each other for a while. He just ended up being in the band as a second guitar player, and then he left, and we still kept in touch. But it was funny. I think it was super funny. So now to keep it a little bit shorter, I don't want to take too much time from you. I have two more questions that I love to end this conversation with. So the first one is, please share with us, what is that one question that you get asked a lot and you're so tired of answering in interviews? Like, for example, for me is like, how is it to be a girl in a band or whatever, shit like that.
Mine's the same. The same two interviews that you get every time you do a tour. And, when you play like the big cities like LA and New York and London, you've got to do like 20 interviews back to back, and it's going, so tell me how the tour is going.
Oh, how the tour is going.
And I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. And then it's tell me a little bit about your latest record. And it's like,
how can I tell you a little bit about it?
yeah, and it's just frustrating. It's like it's like they don't know who you are, and I'm not expecting everybody to know who we are, but I ran a podcast for a number of years, a long time ago, and I interviewed a shitload of bands that I had no idea who they were. And I did some research, I'd find out where they're from, what they're about, I'd find out these things, so you're not asking them generic questions. And I'd just be like, oh, fuck, like, dude, I don't have enough time to answer that question. Like, that's a long answer, and I'm going to have to be short with it, and it's going to sound vague and, unfinished. So I guess just those really basic, and then when you play Download Festival in England, we've done that like 4 years now. And I fucking hate Download Festival interviews. Like, they lock you in this fucking big marquee and this like fenced off area outside, and you've just got 30 interviews, just bang, 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 like you're a cattle getting put through a slaughterhouse, and maybe 5 of the interviews are with decent, reputable magazines or podcasts or something, and the rest are just somebody that has a Facebook page with 16 followers and they've just got free tickets to go. So they just go, oh, so how's your day been? I'm like, I just got here 3 hours ago, and now I'm standing here in front of you. I'd like to speed this up. I've got to go to catering, but so are you excited to play Download? Is it your first time here? And I'm like, you've done no research at all, mate. Like, you're from Australia. Are you happy to be in England? No, the weather here is fucking shit. All you people fucking like ask the same fucking question every time.
Talking about that, I had one time one guy said he was interviewing me, right? I was scheduled interview, not just, and he's like, so you play tonight, right?
Fucking hell.
And I was like,
yeah.
Are you sure you got the interview with me? Because,
I just started walking off now because for so many years I've just tried to overcome that awkwardness and just go along and just act like I'm happy to be there and happy that any interview is happening, and that I'm doing my bit for these people, and all the fans are going to like it. I'm going to be really funny and just keep it rolling. And I'm just like, nah, dude, like we're done. Like, and I do that for several reasons, because I feel my time is way more valuable than being stuck with them. Even if I was just sitting on the bus playing FIFA or watching Netflix on my laptop or something, I find that my time is more valuable than that. Plus, also, I'm a very firm believer in if you're doing a job that you want to do, you should wholeheartedly do your job. And it proves to me that these people just don't care that much about their job, and they don't deserve to have that job or get their free VIP tickets to that festival or that show where there's probably 50 other people that would be dying to be in their position to interview people in bands, and they would have far more better questions and topics to talk about. So I just only in the last probably 6 months, 12 months, I've started walking out on interviews, and I'm very respectful about it. I'm like, look, man, this ain't going to work. Thanks for trying, but we're done here, and I just leave.
I should learn from you, because I even get sometimes that those devoted fans that actually watch all of your interviews and like follow you. They write to me sometimes, like DM me or something, and they're like, I'm so sorry you have to go through this. This interviewer guy was so dumb. And I was thank you. Thank you. All right, my last question is, do you have, I don't know, a question that you feel like people never ask that could be important? It doesn't matter if it's related to the band or to you. With all this huge amount of interviews, is there like a question that nobody ever thinks of asking, but it's important?
I guess it's a good question, because I've never thought about it, and I guess because as you found out very quickly during this discussion, that I tend to answer the question and then kind of veer off on something else. So maybe I've never been asked a question that I've wanted to answer, but I've answered it on some strange tangent off another question that they've asked that has no relevance whatsoever to what they've asked me. But I've answered something already, because I've done literally thousands and thousands of interviews, and hundreds of times I've had, they come with 10 to 20 questions, and they'll ask me one question, but I'll answer 4 of their questions in one answer, and I go, all right, well, you've just answered 4 of my other questions, so I'm just like,
nice.
fuck. So
yes.
I guess that's the best way for me. Like, if I'm in a position where that I can ramble and be free and honest in a interview, in a question with relatively interesting or confronting questions, that's where people will get the best out of me. Unless it's like, you know, Empiricon and stuff where they want to have a little bit of fun, and I play it up to be the clown and all that sort of stuff, because sometimes I like being the clown, and I know a lot of people enjoy that side of me as well. But I think now I'm coming into becoming older and more responsible, and slowing down my life whilst keeping it extremely fast paced. I think it's you know, you can't do every interview the same. I feel I don't think there's like a blueprint to do every interview. It depends on the interviewer and the interviewee. Depends on what day it is. Depends on how you're feeling. Depends on the questions. You know, you know, anything could have happened. This interview could be completely different if this was delayed 24 hours. You know, something really dramatic or horrific or of great importance may have happened in this next 24 hours. So this conversation would be very different. And I don't think that just applies to me because I have certain mental health issues or personalities. I think that everybody would fall into that boat. So I guess it just depends on the day, you know, and I think that's my answer to a lot of things when people say, oh, what would you do if this had happened? I said, well, it'd all depend on how that day was going. Like, well, how can you say that? I said, well, I could have had a bad day that day, and the outcome would be very different if I had a normal day or a happy day. And they're like, well, how would that make sense? Why would that make you feel any different? I'm like, why wouldn't it? Like, you know, like I sometimes it makes me feel more different in the world when I look at other people's reaction to those simple things that I feel that are simple answers to simple questions, and they think that I'm strange because I say it depends on how I'm feeling that day, and I'm like, how do you...
Well, the outcome might not change, but your main opinion on a thing might not change, but your approach to it changes definitely depending on what happened in the past, you know, few days or something.
That's right. That's right. So it's I fucking really hope that life goes back to normal very quick.
Me too. Crazy. Oh, me too. You know, thank you so much, TJ. I had a lot of fun, although it's like 3 a.m. here. I am so thankful that you found time for me, for the fans, and, you know, you recharged me. You gave me some good things to think about, which I am very, very thankful for. And one more time, thank you again, and have a good rest of your day. And cheers with that beer. Let's party.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Of course. And I hope to see you soon on the road, either together to share the stage again or just to go and see you rock, do your thing.
Definitely.
The way you do it. Thank you again. Really, I had a blast.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.